Good evening. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Mr. Girish. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join. We're talking about something very interesting today. Hello, Sanket. Welcome. Just waiting to add a few more people. We'll have a guest also joining in today. I'll try and keep the time. I'll not divert from the topic much. We have another guest as well today. Our first guest, of course, is DR.ROSHAN Jain. I'm going to invite him to the thing immediately. DR.ROSHAN needs to send me an invite to be joined in. Yes, there it is. Fantastic. Wonderful. Hello, DR.ROSHAN. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Niranjan.
I'm just waiting in for a few more people to join in today.
Great.
Just a brief introduction about the topic for today. We're talking about one of the most common addictions that people have on earth. And it is one of the biggest reasons it can be considered one of the biggest killers of human population. For those who smoke and those who don't smoke, both are at risk. As we all can see, nearly 12 different types of cancers can be caused by smoking alone. And smoking has caused nearly 80% of lung cancer deaths. Surprise, surprise. There are more than 5,000 chemical components which are found in cigarette smoke. And most of them are extremely harmful. To list a few, I've just put up a few here. And you can see it affects every part of your body. The World Health Organization has said that India is in fact the home to 12% of world smokers. Nearly 10 million people die due to tobacco in India, and 70% of adults smoke. And the numbers are not looking good for females either. Oral cancer can be one of the highest. It's about 3.5 times higher in smokers compared to non-smokers. And as you can see, it's a huge burden for people economically as well. As a dentist, we are very concerned about a person who's smoking. It's very saddening to see that they lose quite a number of teeth. They have stained teeth and tongue. There's bad breath. They lose a sense of taste and smell. Very, very poor healing after extractions, after surgeries. Difficult to correct cosmetic dental problems. Gum diseases, which is one of the most common occurrence. Nearly 90% of people in India suffer from gum disease. And of course, the biggest problem, oral cancer. As you all know, that if you can maintain good oral health, as we saw last time with Dr. Amit, who was telling us about diabetes, I also added a few points about how diabetes and oral health are related. Smoking can worsen both oral health and diabetes. What is most saddening today is that there are nearly 6 lakh Indian children between 10 and 14 years who smoke. That is a big bummer. It's a worry for all of us. The reason why people smoke, I think DR.ROSHAN today will be able to tell us much better on what drives people to smoke. But this is one of the biggest reasons the tobacco industry keeps feeding us this killer. It contributes to 11.79 lakh crore rupees and employs a whopping 4.5 crore people. The World Health Organization had started this program, World No Tobacco Day. Every 31st of May it is organized. This time's theme is protecting youth from industry manipulation and preventing from tobacco and nicotine use. We can go on talking about this. We can talk about ZIL effects, we can talk about how mothers are affected, how pregnant women can actually kill their children in their womb if they continue to smoke. And that is why I felt today we need to talk about this very important topic of how can one quit smoking. I would like to welcome to the show DR.ROSHAN Jain, who has nearly 22 years of experience. He's trained in UK and currently is a senior consultant at Apollo Hospitals. He deals with people who have addictions day in and day out, and he trains people to quit the habit, smoking being one of them. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Niranjan, for organizing this, and it couldn't have been more pertinent time before the World No Tobacco Day coming close to us, and it's time to discuss it and try to understand some of the habit that we all, many millions, have engaged in for years.
So, sir, I would like to ask you one of the most important questions today. I have a lot of questions here, by the way, guys. I'm going to be grilling doctor today, asking him all kinds of questions. As a dentist, I come across smokers day in and day out.
Yes.
And it's quite disheartening to see youngsters struggling to quit the habit. Now, we've seen, I just showed a few facts about smoking. Despite all these problems, despite all these issues, why is it that someone takes up smoking?
So you quite rightly mentioned some of the facts, and tobacco is one of the, or nicotine rather, nicotine in the tobacco is one of the most addictive substances known to man. And it's even more addictive than heroin. And yet it is being sold legally by the government. They have banned some products like electronic cigarettes in 2019. They banned hookah in 2017 across the country. But the biggest killer ever to have known to humanity is still legally sold everywhere. There is no restrictions. There are some smoking in public places. Kotpa is there. You're not allowed to smoke in public places since 1998, I think. And people smoke everywhere. People smoke in restaurants, in bars. So you quite rightly said the facts are startling, and one quite cannot understand why it is still legal. And the nicotine which is present in tobacco, apart from the 7,000 chemicals, of which 70 are cancer-forming drugs, nicotine is the one which holds on to a smoker, just like a leech. So once you smoke it, it's very difficult to say whether single cigarette or few cigarettes can make you an addict. It's very difficult to say because some people might get hooked onto it instantly and some people might take weeks and months. But once you're hooked on to nicotine, then it doesn't leave you. And what might seem pleasurable and fashionable, it holds on to you so badly that you struggle to get rid of it. So very, very highly addictive substance. And I think once a person is addicted to nicotine, then even if he wants to, he cannot, because the urge for the nicotine hits are very, very strong. And two, the withdrawal symptoms of, when people don't smoke cigarettes or try to give it up on their own, the withdrawal symptoms are quite severe. They get restless, they get agitated, they get sleepless, they get angry, and so on. So these withdrawal symptoms are not dangerous per se. In other words, it doesn't kill you, but it makes you very, very uncomfortable. Therefore, most smokers will just try to avoid getting into that discomfort zone and carry on damaging their body, because some of the damages of cigarettes are not realized for months and years. So it takes a long time before they realize. And unlike, for example, if you drink too much alcohol, you can just fall in a gutter. But with cigarettes, you see the consequences only after years. So people just say, it'll be fine. Somebody I know in the village smoked for 90 years and is still alive and well. That sort of, positive affirmations that smokers will carry on to say, maybe it won't happen to me. Cancer, mujhe nahi hoga.
So you had a very interesting anecdote before we started. You said you'll sing it for us.
I was just thinking of one of the songs, and I came across Devanand's Hum Dono, a movie song called मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया,
हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया. That one.
And the second line goes, बर्बादियों का शोक मनाना फिजूल था, इसलिए बर्बादियों का जश्न मनाता चला गया. And
that's so true.
And in the whole song, he is lighting cigarettes, and smoking it, glorifying smoking. And I think that would have done an enormous amount of damage to people who haven't smoked. So
True.
such ads are banned, or obvious advertisements and presentation of smoking is banned. Yet we see a lot of smoking in the cinema yet. So we still haven't got anywhere near getting rid of this dreadful habit. People are individually struggling. Government is doing very little, and the nicotine won't let you go once you take it up.
Obviously, because when they contribute to nearly 11.79 lakh crore rupees as a revenue, government is only going to do it in the shadows. You know, they're not going to come out in the open and snub it out. Once it snubs out, it probably makes life easier. That brings me to the second question, sir. Now, you said nicotine actually drives a person to keep smoking, to keep going back to it every time. Does stress contribute as well?
I think a smoker would have a difficulty in saying that whether he's smoking the cigarette or the cigarette is smoking him. And and I think most of the smoker will tell you that they no longer smoke the cigarette because they want to. And let's face it, Niranjan, smoking is no longer.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you. Your voice is not very clear. If you could, and I can't see your handsome face as well. Yeah, much better.
Wi-Fi connection is much worse than the 4G. 4Gs are better.
Yes, I think we had a lovely rain a few minutes ago, and probably that's why everywhere it's a big problem. Power is off, current is gone.
It's very, very humid. Yeah. So sorry, I forgot where we were.
Stress. Is stress a contributing factor?
It's a big contributing factor because when you look at a habit, habits are generally associated with trigger factors. So either positive triggers or negative triggers. So positive triggers could be meeting friends, having a drink, having a coffee, having a chat outside the office, in your balcony, or during a break. These are positive triggers. So the moment you go into that area, if you have smoked previously, then you want to smoke again. So it's a reminder, it's a positive. And the negative triggers where when you're angry, when you're stressed out, when you had a fight with your wife, when your dentist has charged you too much, you want to have and you want to have a cigarette. And so once the links are established in a behavior, then there's an automatic activation of a routine. So there's a trigger, and then there's a routine which is activated, and then the person goes on to do in an automated fashion. So, and for many smokers, they don't even realize that they are lighting up a cigarette. And if you ask the chain smokers, they just light up cigarettes, sometimes just replenishing the nicotine supplies that might.
True. We seem to be having a poor connection on that, doctor. We're not able to see you as of now. Yeah, some problem with the Wi-Fi. Sorry.
No. That's what happens. So it's quite difficult, and stress amongst various things: stress of traveling, stress of work, stress of demands, stress of expectations, pressures, examinations, schooling, stress of health issues, relationship problems. We go through such a difficult, complex life these days. And if you have already an established behavior then you're going to keep returning back to it, because nicotine, once you're hooked onto it, then it's a constant reminder that you want that hit again and again, and that then gets into the automatic mode. So people can't stop. So there's a strong association with that.
True. That's quite interesting. We in fact have a few questions as well. I'll take them up. Thank you, viewers, for dropping in your questions. I will take your questions as and when doctor is ready. I'll first finish mine. It's my show, I'll finish my questions first. So as you said, stress, smoking, there is a chain, there is a cycle. People can't get out of that cycle. So if somebody wants to quit smoking, what would be your suggestion be? and how do you help a person quit smoking?
I think smokers typically live in a state of denial. They don't recognize that there is a problem. They live in a denial that it is going to cause them serious health issues. Uh, they live in a denial that it is not as dangerous as anything else. At least they're not going to see any consequences immediately. There might be breathing difficulties and um, other oral hygiene issues and so on. But in the long-term consequences are generally not seen in majority of people immediately. So they live in denial. So one of the things when we see the smokers is to make them aware of their habit, make them aware of the patterns in which they smoke, the amount of cigarettes that they smoke, and to get an understanding of any health consequences. For example, getting a check of your lung functions, getting a check of general health, even oral hygiene. As I told you last time, that when I see a lot of the smokers, then the first thing I do is to ask them to get a dental checkup, because most of them have heavy stains, they have
Very
many
true.
dental issues, and if they aren't enough aware of the consequences of smoking, then what I do is I send them to a dentist and who will scare them enough for them to come back. So you need to have some feedback about your health consequences, about the extent of your behavior and extent of smoking. So you engage them in that sort of conversation to say that maybe it's
True.
time for them to give up. In many cases,
Yes.
people come to see us through family members and couples and partners. In some cases, they come on their own. Uh, Most of them would avoid consulting for fear that they can't handle it. Many people have tried to give it up as a cold turkey. So suddenly they quit and then they found it quite disturbing and difficult. So they just went back to smoking, and which was more convenient. So you educate, you inform them, you assess the degree of the problem, uh, and then you open up the conversation about what must be done. And in some of the addictions, we could look, for example, alcohol, we could say harm minimization, where you can say you cut down the drinking, get back to social level of drinking, and drink in a sensible manner. But with smoking, I think we generally don't do that. We don't tell people to cut down smoking. We just say, either you continue to smoke, keep conversing about your habit, or you give it up completely. And you present the options of giving up smoking, not cold turkey, but to give options of substitutes, to tell people to say, okay, the nicotine is what is holding on to cigarettes. It's not the smoke. It's not the tar. It's not the dirty, disgusting smell that you're latched onto. It is the nicotine which is latching on to you. And we have substitute for that. So a substitute could be in the form of nicotine gums, nicotine patches, and previously we used to get in electronic cigarettes as vape, and so on. So once we have those substitute in place, and then we assure people to say that their withdrawal symptoms might be very less or none at all if we give them proper input and help, then people start to consider the change.
So as you're saying, don't quit cold turkey. Don't just give up one day and then expect the body to heal. Use a substitute. Make sure that you have a nicotine patch or nicotine gum.
Yeah, yeah,
And you
absolutely.
also mentioned vaping. I would like to ask you,
Mm.
if a person is smoking the regular cigarettes, moves
Yeah,
on to vaping as an alternative, is it less
yeah.
harmful to the health?
Uh, from vape, from e-cigarettes to from cigarettes to e-cigarettes, is it?
Yes, yes.
Well, in when the e-cigarettes came out, it was supposed to be given or used by adult addicted smokers, uh, but there was no regulations around that. So it was people began to use it as a recreational item, and especially there was a lot of concerns in US where they did a survey where they found that 25% of the 14 to 18-year-old had smoked e-cigarette in the previous year, and the e-cigarettes were available in a wide variety of flavor. The devices became smaller and smaller, more and more stylish,
Very
uh,
attractive.
very attractive, very discreet, no smell. You could carry it anywhere. You could smoke in a
True,
no smoking room in a hotel and nobody would know. You could
true,
smoke it in a small room, a school bathroom, and nobody would know as well. So the younger
true.
people started taking up
Dangerous.
a lot of e-cigarettes, and which called the US to take concern. They banned it, uh, especially they banned the flavored uh, e-liquid, which goes in the e-cigarettes. And India
True,
went on
true.
in September 2019 to ban it completely. All forms of
Yes.
e-cigarette possession, use, supply, manufacturing, everything was completely and utterly banned, which I think was very premature step because there was no advisory from the government. There was no
Okay.
precautionary advice. There was no, like with cigarettes, they didn't warn public to say this is a potential health hazard and we are introducing people into nicotine addiction, where in absence of e-cigarette, people will go on to have a cigarette. So that was concerns were genuine, but the ban was premature, I think.
Okay.
But the Public Health England, the National Health Service, they still prescribe e-cigarettes as a substitute
Okay.
for cigarettes. And they found there's enough data to suggest that it's at least 95% safer than cigarettes because it
So
simply
do you
doesn't have
mean
the same
that it's a transition? So for a person who's transiting from smoking to no smoking, he can rely on e-smoking to help him quit?
uh, they could rely in England and US, you could still transition from smoking to e-cigarettes, which is much safer and much less hazardous than
Okay.
smoking. The problem with
Okay.
e-cigarettes was that people not just they transitioned, but they stayed on e-cigarettes for long periods. And when they run out of the juice or run out of supply, they went back to cigarettes. So
Okay.
the agenda was never set in to say that switch from cigarettes to e-cigarettes and the e-cigarettes gradually to come down and stop. So from the outset, there was no agenda of giving up. There was just substituting, which was the wrong thing to happen. India, it's not possible to do the transition at all. So you need to transition from cigarettes to other nicotine substitute products, but with a clear aim of coming off them. So if you go on to nicotine gums and keep chewing gums and more gums over for months and years, then that's not going to be helpful. And there's no point switching from one habit to another habit. You switch
True.
to stop. And you look
So
at
you
lesser
need
of
to.
an evil. You look at lesser of an evil, and then you get out of it.
So you need to taper it. You need to taper it and ultimately have the aim of quitting smoking. That is whether it is
Absolutely.
nicotine should completely be off your system. That's what you mean.
And the previous question, when you said, what do you do with people? We give them options, but we also educate them that it is not a permanent substitute. It is a tapering down, or what you call as detox. So start to something else and then come down slowly, so that the withdrawal symptoms are comfortable and they can engage in psychological work. They can engage in their inherent motivation to bring about changes. Because I can frankly tell you that most smokers want to give up smoking, but they just won't because they think it's just too inconvenient.
So people who smoke out there, all of you, most important thing that the doctor has been telling us is try and motivate yourself to quit smoking. Make sure that you have an alternative, like a nicotine patch or nicotine gums, chewing gums. But the ultimate aim is to quit and come off nicotine completely. Neither of which is good for us. Neither of which is good for your health. Am I right, doctor?
It's one of the strongest habit. And if you're not motivated to give up smoking, don't worry. See a professional, see an addiction specialist. And what they will do is they'll take you through the stages of understanding the extent of your problem, tapping into your motivation, making you enthusiastic about change, and then holding your hand through that change and to the end where you come out clean and you come out healthy. So, and there is a lot of data, Niranjan, to suggest that people who go cold turkey, there's an 80% plus chances of relapsing within the first 2 weeks of giving up.
Very interesting point.
If you take a professional help with nicotine substitute, like nicotine gums or patches, then your chances go up by 70-80%. So there's 70-80% chances of you giving up the habit that you wanted to give up.
Wonderful.
So get help, take the substitute.
So don't just walk into a medical store and ask for a nicotine gum. Please seek help from somebody who would help you with it. That brings me to the next question, doctor.
Yeah.
And an important one. I feel people who want to quit smoking feel they would be judged. There is a stigma attached to seeking help in our country. You are the best person to tell us about it. You're a mental health care specialist as well, who deals with this problem. I'm sure smokers feel guilty or feel that there's some kind of stigma attached to that, and they would feel they would be judged. What do you have to say about that?
I think if you look at the history of addiction itself, it's quite interesting that addiction was always seen as a character flaw or some sort of weakness. And consequently, with those things in mind, people who were addicted to nicotine or alcohol, to drugs or anything, were seen in a negative light. And therefore, they were dealt with in a punitive manner. They were punished. They were excluded. They were thwarted away to say that, this is what you brought upon yourself, and therefore we can't help you. But what with science we understood was that all forms of addiction are not just behavioral problems, but they are brain disease, which affects a wide variety of motivation to memory and other circuits of the brain. So once we understood it's a brain disease with components of behavioral problems, then we started to deal it with in a therapeutic manner to say that people of any sort of addiction need help. And consequently, what previously we used to do was the punitive measures included shaming people, blaming them for what they've done. That has changed now. You now accept them, you acknowledge that they had a problem, that this is more than just a behavior, and that they need to be helped in a medicinal, in a therapeutic, in a supportive manner. And once people are aware of such an input, then one, their guilt and shame is less. They start to accept that they have a problem, and that the problem that they can't deal with can be helped by other people. So once such an acknowledgement and acceptance of an individual comes in, then they're more likely to seek help, and they're more likely to stay in supportive sessions.
That's wonderful, because I do have a lot of questions coming in here, as I have family members too who are addicted to smoking, and they have been trying to give up for a very long time, but motivation seems to be an issue, and stress as well. So with your advice, I think I would like to sit with them, talk to them, and I do sit and talk to my patients as well sometimes, asking them how I can be of help to them, and if they are open to seeking help, I always refer them to somebody who can actually sit down and take them through the process. Please, viewers, please note that this is not a disease. This form of addiction that you have can be overcome. It's just your mind, and mind, is a beautiful thing, and it can be managed. You just need to seek help, and seeking help is better for you. And make sure you seek the right person. Doctor, if they would like to seek help from you, where can they contact you?
They can come. I practice in Apollo Hospital in Bangalore, and there are 3 Apollos in Bangalore. There's one in Jayanagar Apollo, and there's another one is on Banagatta Road. So these are 2 places I consult every day. So they can come and consult me there directly. Consequently, they can look up my website, roshanjain.com, and from there they can email me, write to me discreetly, and we can start a conversation where, if they need help, if they need nudging, if they need support, then we can take them through that. Almost all persons who seek help of any sort, especially with addictions, are going to benefit. They're going to benefit with improvement in the health. They're going to benefit with improvement in motivation. They're going to benefit with change in behavior. When a person seeks help, there's a deep feeling that there's something not right. Something must change, but they don't know quite how. And that's the purpose of therapy.
True. And in fact, in our in dental field as well, we tell our patients that people who used to smoke and people who continue to smoke have differences in the way they heal after a particular procedure. There is complete vasoconstriction in the blood vessels in the mouth, and that leads to severe periodontitis. And once they stop smoking, body tends to regenerate. It tends to come back into a state of health, and that is important. Whether you're having any systemic disease or whether you have oral problems, if you stop smoking, you're going to have an improved quality of life.
You won't believe this. One of the things the tools that I use to motivate people is to say, when they come and see me first, and then they say, I want to give up and help me out, I ask them to take a selfie, standing in, for example, in a particular place, particular time, same time, and say, take a selfie of yourself in the same place, same position every week. And while you've given up cigarettes, just see the change on yourself, see the change in your face. Because as I said, the vasoconstriction, the blood supply of the skin, for example, improves. The circles under the eye will change. A person starts to look healthier and healthier. So, visible appearance, when it changes, apart from improvement in breathing, improvements in a heart rate, pulse rates, improvement, so when the person gets a direct visible feedback that they actually not just feel better of giving up cigarettes, but they also look better and they look healthier, then it makes an enormous amount of difference. And you're quite right. If body is more perfused, then they recover fast from surgeries, from dental procedures, and so on. Sometimes, we tell people to give up cigarettes before they're undergoing operations and before they're undergoing procedures, and because that itself just contributes positively to full recovery.
Oh, that's very difficult, doctor. You know what? I have patients whom I do extractions for, and I tell them no smoking, and a few minutes later, I find them down the road smoking across, the shop, and and then they go like, okay, this doctor has seen me now. So it's quite difficult. I do understand. I do understand what state they are in, what they must be going through. It must be so difficult for them to give up. They want to, but they cannot. And that is the time when you must seek help. As sir was saying, make sure that go down to a specialist, sit down, talk to him, or talk to your family member, speak to them about your problem, and help them motivate you. So if you have a friend, if you have friends who smoke, please don't ignore it, and don't take them out to the hookah bar next because they smoke. Encourage them to quit it. Talk to them. Don't just see them smoke away to glory and then say, this guy will never quit. They can quit if you help them to quit. So there is onus on non-smokers as well to help people quit. One more question I have, doctor. If there are teenagers who smoke, how should their parents deal with them? Do you think it is important that they sit down and talk to them, or how parents are sometimes they get very parental, and the things can go wrong. So how do you advise parents whose children smoke to handle them?
So we have done seminars in schools and colleges to educate people about the perils of smoking, about the risk that is there to the health, immediate and long term and short term, and so on. So education plays a key role, and that helps people to decide and choose. And often, the kind of life we live is completely dependent on the choices we've made. And with the youngsters, you have to sit down and talk to them to help them to choose rightly. And I think if there's going to be any habit that one must avoid, it must be smoking. Of all the addictions, I think this one is probably the worst. Long-term, profound complications on your health. So even with our children, with my son, I keep telling him that, look, whatever you do, don't smoke. You won't believe it. I used to smoke a lot in my college days, and it was in those days that it took me a long effort. That nicotine patches had come in at that point, and I took nicotine patches, gave up cigarettes, and then went into addiction training. And then it was quite helpful for me, because for me it was quite easy to realize that how difficult it was to give up, and consequently that helped me to help others, to say that if you try and not succeed, then that's not a problem. We learn from our mistakes, we learn from our lack of success, we learn from a failure. And when we say that you try to give up, you slipped up again, you started again, that's okay. As long as you keep coming back, there is still hope that we can succeed and get you out of it.
It's like how Batman's father says, why do we fall only to rise?
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So it's very nice of you to have shared this interesting point, doctor. No better person than a former smoker to help quit smokers today. And the advice that you would be given would be so valuable to people, because you understand what your body goes through and how you can destroy it completely. And that's a wonderful point you've shared. Thank you so much.
And one more point I want to add there, Niranjan, is that sometimes I tell people that if you're a smoker, then be the leader in your gang to have given up smoking. Be the first one to give up smoking. True. And work very hard on it. To set an example, be a role model, and then work very hard to change your habit. And then after some time, start professing, start telling people how to give up cigarettes. Because when you start teaching, then it becomes even more reinforcing to say, I did it. And then you tell people to say, bhashan dena shuru kar do. Okay, I did it, I can do it, so you can do it as well. So try to be the leader. So as you said, your family member, if one or many family members smoke, then try to be the first one who quit. And that will always be remembered.
True. So there are nearly 400 hookah bars. In fact, Deepthi is asking a question. 400 hookah bars in Bangalore.
Yeah.
And there's a rising trend among students who bunk classes, go and sit down and smoke. And what do you think the consequences can be? Can there be transmission of diseases? That's an interesting question between smokers. They don't disinfect those hookahs that they put in their mouth.
They too tend to use disposable holders on the hookah, and you can keep the holders with you, so you don't have to transmit. But that is another point altogether. Firstly, hookah bars are completely illegal. It's banned since 2017. So if they're running, it's completely and utterly illegal. So if you're caught in a hookah bar, or if there's a raid, then you probably will get arrested as well. And there's some Bishop Cotton girls and boys were arrested about a few years ago after the ban of hookah. They were all arrested and it came in the newspapers. So it's completely illegal. Try not to go there. try not to go to hookah bar. But besides, the important point is that a hookah smoking is far more dangerous than cigarettes. Now, let me take you that through few simple points. A cigarette smokers will take about 10-15 puffs over a 5-minute period. So a cigarette will have 15 puffs. You smoke it for 5 minutes, and each puff has about 50 to 75 ml of smoke. So in total, they smoke about 1.5 to 1 liter of smoke into the entire cigarette. In a hookah, you can take as much as 0.5 liter of smoke in one puff. So
oh my God.
So a hookah smoker smokes for longer duration. So a typical hookah smoking will happen for an hour. So you could end up smoking and taking as much of smoke as equivalent to 100 cigarettes. Now, this is the data by WHO scientists. So 1 hour of hookah smoking is equivalent to 100 cigarettes, and more than 20-30 times more amount of nicotine going into your body, about 30 times more amount of carbon monoxide and tar. So is far more unhealthy habit than cigarettes. Unsurprisingly, and quite happily, I'm quite happy that government banned that because it was introducing. It became an urban fad, just like e-cigarettes. Hookah had become an urban fad. It still is, and non-smokers are taking up hookah, thinking that it's just
that's an interesting thing, because children see their peers doing it outside college and school, and then they see that it's available close by. They just walk up and then start using it, and that can be a bad trend.
Absolutely,
that must be really suppressing.
It's an introduction to nicotine, because once you smoke nicotine for a few times, you get a hit, get addicted, and then it's not convenient to go to hookah bar all the time, but it's convenient to smoke. So then the person will say, okay, well, forget hookah bar, let's just light up a cigarette. And there you got a new smoker, and you got probably a lifelong smoker. So bad idea. If people are smoking hookah, don't, because it's not just illegal, but it's far more unhealthy.
True. This was a wonderful conversation, Doctor. Wonderful insights from you, and I think if all our viewers have been benefited by this, please send us a thumbs up, and you can connect with the doctor on his email. Can you please state your email, sir, if they can write to you?
Yes, absolutely. ROSHAN JAIN DR@gmail.com. So just put the doctor at the end of the name.
That is ROSHANJAINDR@gmail.com. At gmail.com. And I think Dr. Roshan will be able to help you understand how you can quit smoking.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions that might be left out, and I'll be happy to initiate your journey to change.
Wonderful. That's wonderful, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. And this was a very, very informative topic, even for me. And now I can talk to my patients better and help them understand that, they can seek help. In fact, as dentists, we will be one of the first people to identify that a person, a youngster, probably is smoking. You have these telltale signs in your mouth, and that helps. And we can also spot cancers in their, in the conditions which they are not completely malignant as of now, pre-malignant lesions. We can spot leukoplakia, we can spot oral submucous fibrosis, and that way I would be more keen on helping our patients even more than I would. And you'll be seeing a lot of my patients now.
I tell people all the time that if you haven't smoked, please don't. But if you have smoked, now is the time. And I think a decision to give up smoking will probably one of the best decisions you'll make in your life. And it's never too late. Just take a call, ask for help, and start a new journey to better health. And there's no good time for that. So go for it. And there's all kind of expertise, substitutes, medicines, everything is available to help people come out of this dreadful habit.
There it is. So you can reach Dr. Roshan Jain on his email ID. Please send him your questions. Tag us. I have a question, and he will know where it has come from. And this has been it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you very much, sir. And now thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for taking out time and being here. Now I have another interesting guest on the show. Before I say goodbye to Sir, I'll just say a few things about our next guest. She's a journalist and also the founder of one of the most interesting Instagram handles. It's called Slangaluru. More about it in a few minutes.
Thank you, Niranjan. Thank you. And
I'm going to.
Sorry.
Carry on, sir. Carry on. Say.
Well, thank you so much, and it was great being here. And it's a good program. It's a good initiation to converse with people.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. I have another question. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? If you can hear me, please say, yes, you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I lost audio last time when I was trying to connect with the next person. We have our special guest now, Ikyatha Yersala. She is a die-hard RCB fan. She probably has been featured in several news articles. She is a journalist herself, and she is the founder of a very interesting Instagram page called Slangaluru. Welcome, Ikyatha. And I'm going to talk to her about, and this is going to be a fun section. I know a lot of you have heard a lot of advice now, and now I'm going to invite Ikyatha onto the page, onto the show. She in fact interviews a lot of celebrities on her Instagram page as well. You can check it out, Slangaluru. There she is. Hi, Ikyatha. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Can you hear
me? Yes, I can hear you. We must ask that question first to everybody. Can you hear me? In fact, I made a note and kept it ready.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
If you can hear us, please give us a thumbs up so that we can proceed.
Yeah,
yes, I think they can hear us. Dr. Niranjan, oh, my mom is saying that. Thank you. Okay.
Wow, nice.
Yes.
From dentist to talk show host.
Hey, Ikyatha, tell us about two of your things that you've been doing. One, you are a part of a social movement called Me Too. Please tell us about it first.
Okay, so the Me Too movement started in 2018 when a lady called Tarana Burke started it, and it went viral. So it gave women across the world really, you can say not really safe, but then a platform to voice their stories. And not just women, even men and women survivors of assault or abuse were speaking up, because till now they did not have any platform to open up, or and there are multiple reasons why survivors or victims don't open up. But the thing is, nobody sees that. Everyone just questions them, saying, why didn't you speak up, or why are you speaking up so late? Nobody understands the dynamics that's involved and why justice is so difficult. Nobody understands the trauma involved to the survivors. So I think the Me Too movement paved a way and kind of gave survivors all across the world. Even in India, a lot of people spoke up, and a lot of celebrity predators were outed too. Of course, it needs to be streamlined, and something good needs to has to come out of it, because all these predators are still roaming around freely. But at least it's a start, and there's still a long way to go. But yeah, hopefully it'll change for the better.
In what way have you contributed to this movement? Has someone sought help from you? Are you able to help them?
Yes, so basically as a journalist, I've written a lot of stories, and when actress Shruti Hariharan came out and outed Arjun Sarja, I wrote an article about the importance of consent. And I've also written quite a few articles about, Me Too stories in the film industry and things like that. And as an activist, I keep posting on Twitter, on Instagram, on social media. And I also do help out by giving contacts of lawyers. There are a lot of lawyers who do pro bono work, but a lot of victims don't know that they do pro bono work. So I try to connect these people, and then I connect them to mental health experts, because people are lost. They don't know where to go. So they need a right platform, and they need a direction to be shown, at least saying, you can go here for help. So I try to do that. And I also keep in touch with some of the Me Too crusaders, like Chinmay, etc. So, to see what's happening and things like that.
Youngsters like you coming forward to be of help to people is a wonderful movement. I'm also a youngster, although my hair is very white. I'm also young.
You're forever young, Doc.
Thanks. So I wanted to know from you, this movement had made so much noise all over, and it was, it suddenly started becoming a movement.
Yeah.
And do you think all of a sudden things are now quiet?
So see, the thing is, there are to any movement there's always some controversy. So the problem is, if there is one or two false accusations or there's some controversy that comes out, people stop believing survivors, which should not be done. Because of the Me Too movement, Harvey Weinstein is now going to prison, which is like, the biggest Bollywood producer is going, the most powerful man was nailed. So if that can happen, I'm sure things can happen in India too. But the point is, they take one or two false cases and they kind of derail the
They
whole
project that.
movement. Yeah, and the thing is, men and women need to be together in this. It's not a gender war, it's a fight against
Yes.
abuse. So you can't make it a gender war, and But
Yes.
what I've noticed is people do not understand trauma. They do not understand. They just think it's just easy. They're like, why didn't you file a report? Why are you speaking up so late? And in fact, if you go to Twitter and you follow the hashtag why I didn't report, you will see thousands and millions of stories of survivors opening up as to why they didn't report. So that will
my
actually enlighten people as to why it's so difficult to report. So here also takes it seriously, give people a platform, because when women speak up, they have to, there's this whole defamation case that can be filed. Everywhere you go, as a woman or as a victim or a survivor, it's difficult in every way so it should actually be difficult for the predator, not for the victim. So,
True.
but that's not
And
how
I think
the system works.
this is where colleagues at work should be of help. Colleagues should come out and be of support to their female or male staff members, and help them or motivate them to go seek help or report the incident and make sure they get out with it at the earliest, and then bring the predators to justice.
Yeah, but the problem is we have a habit of brushing things under the carpet here, right? So nobody speaks up openly, nobody is encouraged to speak up, because they say if you speak up as a woman, you'll be judged. And it's unfortunate that the woman's reputation gets harmed and not the predators. So
Yes,
it's
I do
really very
understand.
difficult. So
Yes.
yeah, and kudos to the people, both men and women, who've spoken up till now. I think it takes a lot of courage to do that.
A lot of courage, I know. That's very nice. Just like giving up smoking, speaking about things that really matter to someone else, and then you can be of some contribution to that, or make a difference to their lives, needs a lot of courage. And I think today, with all this happening, people talking to each other, connecting with each other more, I think we'll stop seeing movements like Me Too in the future.
Yeah, but we need the right support from society, from people, from the government and lawmakers. Otherwise, there's no point in just people writing their stories and then nothing, no follow-up being done. Then what's the point?
Yes, yes. So tell me, Ikyatha, you have been involved with something. You've been writing. You're a journalist. You're into this movement, and then you're into something totally different. It's on a tangent. In fact, you are the founder of Slanguluru. I mean, tell us about it. That's one of the most interesting things I've come across on Instagram, and I have contributed to quite a few slangs as well.
Right, yeah, you have, of course you have. Waiting for more slangs from you. So basically, yeah, I'm waiting for some of those Tamil slangs that you told me.
Tamil slang, yes.
Yeah, and maybe some of the slangs that dentists use, which I have not used on the page. So maybe that.
I'm not going to disclose those. It's dentistry secrets.
Right. Okay. So about Slangaluru, I started it in 2018, the end of 2018 almost, and I always was, a heavy slang user. So I was like used to use a lot of Bangalore and Kannada slang mixed with other language words also. So I thought, why not make a page out of it also to connect with Bangaloreans everywhere and people from Karnataka everywhere, and also maybe to teach it to people who are not aware of them. Maybe people who don't are new to the city and things like that. It's a fun way to get introduced to the city and its culture. So I started it on Instagram, and now on Instagram it's we have like 7,000 followers, and we're touching 1,000. Yeah, we're touching 1,000 on Twitter, but I'm not too active on Twitter. It's mostly the Insta page that's very active.
So wonderful. I mean, in fact, the most common slang that is used by all of us, probably at some point we have all used this, is macha or machi.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Tell us a little about the most interesting slangs that you've come across, And I think all of us today can help use it in a sentence. Like you always put it in your post, you know, you have one slang and then how to use it in a sentence.
Right. So yeah, off late I've been, I think, teaching people the same old words. So let me try and think of something new. So recently, my dad's Rotary friends taught me one slang. So it's called Tamrit Chombu. It means
Okay.
it's used for someone who is bald. We also use
Oh,
bandli for it. Yeah, we also use
that's
bandli.
interesting.
So yeah, that is
Recently,
something.
I liked your gotak. You know, I used it and
Gotak.
I would like to say it in this context. Gotak means
Yeah,
finished or dead, right?
finished,
So now,
finished or dead. Yeah, yeah.
so I
We
said
also use,
cigarette,
yeah, we also use matash.
matash. So I said cigarette kudi bedro, gotak aktira, like that.
Yeah, see, you can incorporate it in your, medical field as well. But one
Yes.
thing I always tell people is not to overuse it. You know, if you overuse it, it becomes too much and then you get bored of it. So I
So
always tell them, like, let it come naturally. Just don't force it into every conversation. So that's what I tell them.
one important thing for people who are watching this, none of these are bad words or cuss words. You know,
There are
they're
some,
very
but I'm not going to use it here.
let me say it in a nice way, please. Wait. They're not things that would. They just describe a situation sometimes. You know, they just describe what's going to happen to the other person and things like that. So go ahead and take a look at her page and see what interesting things she has to say. Now, I wanted to ask you, and in fact, it's a point I wanted to add. The best way to learn a language is to first learn its slang, learn the slang words, and then try to incorporate that. It's a starting point. What do you have to say about that?
I would say, of course, yes. So it's a fun way to get introduced to the language, but also please learn a bit of conversational Kannada also, because then if you just go around talking to people in slang, they'll be like, oh my God, what's happening?
True, true.
So maybe the slangs will kind of increase your interest in the language. So that's a good way to stay connected to the city. And I get a lot of messages from people across the world saying, I'm missing Bangalore, I'm in Germany. Just recently someone messaged me from Germany and from
Okay.
Australia and from US. So it's nice that they can all connect to it. And then sometimes, because sometimes I run out of words or sometimes I keep using the same words, I ask my followers to send. So they send me like a long list. They send me so many messages. So
But this is
there's
actually for everybody out there. If you know of something interesting, some slang that you always use and you'd like it to be featured on Slangaluru, I think you can contact Ikyatha.
Yes, please DM us on Slangluru Instagram page or mail us at slangluru@gmail.com.
So
And
I have
yeah,
a sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. You were saying something.
I have a information to share. In
Okay,
fact, this came up as a message. There is someone who needs blood in Colombia, Asia. I've shared it on my
okay,
WhatsApp and I'll also share it on my Facebook page. Somebody who
yeah,
needs around 10 donors are required for blood in Colombia, Asia. I've put up a phone
okay,
number there. If anybody is
okay,
out there in your contacts or the others who can contribute, who can go and donate blood,
okay,
it will be of great help.
okay,
You'll help saving a life.
okay,
Colombia,
okay,
Asia, and the phone number is featured on my Facebook page as well. Please do that. Yes.
sure.
Now back to our thing. Now, what I wanted to ask you was, as you know, how we have this image of girls being docile and using good words and being nice. What
Yeah,
did your parents say when you started this page? Did anybody in your
thought it's a
family say,
bit.
"What? What are you doing? Cuss words? Oh
No,
my God,
no,
slang."
my family never stops me from doing anything. But the
Oh,
thing is,
that's
I don't
wonderful.
think they thought it will grow into such a big brand because I think like I'm sure they thought it's a waste of time, but then they're just very happy that it's grown now, and then I've started merchandise. And also
Oh
the
wow.
funny thing that the funny thing that you mentioned is, a lot of people didn't think a girl would run a page like this. So because
Right.
most of these meme pages or most of these words that I use, they think it's a very guy thing, they don't know that girls also use. So when they got to know that a girl is running it, they were like so shocked and they sent me messages, and a lot of supportive girls also supported. And now that they know who I am and now my identity is revealed, so it's like they're out there. So,
Why should boys have all the fun, huh?
all the fun, yeah. And but I make sure I don't use misogynistic slang as much as possible. I try and limit it. I don't use
Yes,
it.
So how are you planning to, you said you're growing this and merchandise. Can you show one of your
Yeah.
merchandise if you have?
Yeah, so we
You have,
just came out with magnets. One was the buy two coffee design made by this really nice illustrator called Sri Harsha, who's an ardent
okay.
follower of the page. And the other one is the usual line that we use, Chindi Chitrana Bundi Masrana. So that I got it printed. It's a fridge magnet and it's a badge also, so people are liking it, and you can use it as a paperweight also. So I'm getting a lot
Wonderful.
of orders, and in fact I was going to do more, but because of Corona it got held up. So there are t-shirts and mugs and all on the way. So
True.
Doc, you
Uh,
have to promote it to all your patients.
of course, why not? As long as all of them get their teeth pulled out, I don't mind.
Right.
That's very interesting. You have a merchandise with this, and it's grown from just being a few words, slang words on your page, and now you're actually come up to this merchandising. What is
Yeah.
what is the next step?
I do have a lot of collaborations, and I mean I have already collaborations were planned, but because of Corona and all, it didn't happen. We just had a recent collaboration with Lowell Bagh. I don't know if you saw that, the types of R that Bangaloreans use. So
Yes,
that was
yes.
really nice. Yeah, so that was really fun, and we have more planned, but it just needs to happen. So hopefully soon, more collabs along the way. And
Like that.
yeah, and I am also intending to focus more on the quality than the quantity from now on. It's just that during the lockdown, I know that everyone's bored, so I just keep posting. But once the
True.
lockdown gets over, I just want to limit the amount of content.
This is wonderful, wonderfully creative page. I keep checking on what's new on a page every time.
Right.
It just helps you connect with the lingo that guys use. I'm sure there are a lot of
Right.
children in school and colleges, who have this recent lingo which has come up, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll get a lot of messages from them sooner or later. And
No, but the
that's
thing
nice.
is, the amusing part is, um, Indian nods. Yeah, there's actually a video on Indian nods already.
Yeah,
So, but
something
yeah,
like
it's a
that.
good
True.
idea. Yeah, so my dad's friends, who are above 40, 50, who are 60, they know more words than us. So it is really surprising and it's really entertaining. They gave me like a huge list of words, so I'm going to start using them now on the page.
We probably have more
So,
emojis in today's generation and not words.
yeah,
You know why? You
yeah,
know why
yeah, yeah,
WhatsApp and all that.
yeah.
That's wonderful.
So this is the Chindi Chitrana magnet, if you can see it.
That's lovely. So it's like a fridge
Yeah.
magnet, right?
Yes, it's a fridge magnet. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. That's wonderful. Uh, so any story that you have pertaining to this page of yours, something interesting that happened recently that you would like to share with us?
About the page?
Yes, about the page, about something that happened with you, either with the Me Too movement or with the page, something that people would love to hear or should hear and must be aware of.
Yeah, so I'll tell you about both. So recently, when the Harvey Weinstein verdict came out, like everyone was waiting, especially the reporters who had broken the story. Two female reporters from New York Times and one reporter, he's Woody Allen's son, by the way, and
Oh,
from New Yorker. So when it came out and when they tweeted it across the world, it was like a victory, because I think more than 100 women spoke up against him. So that was like a victory. So, never underestimate the power of one voice. Of course, people keep telling me also not to speak too much about it because it's stressful, and then who knows, like your name can be, you
dragged
can be
into
put under
something
risk.
unwanted.
Yeah, because it's controversial, it's unsafe, and also it's little disturbing, no? So sometimes I'm also told not to follow it. So I do it when I'm in a space, when I'm in the mind space to follow it, I follow it. If it gets too much, I take a break. So I always say don't underestimate the power of one voice. You never know what that might create. Or even if that person doesn't go to prison or pay for it, at least you could be saving another person from the same
Yes,
kind of,
yes.
So the thing is, the problem is they keep doing it because nobody speaks up and nobody holds them accountable. But once you start doing that, then at least they'll be a little scared.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's one. Yeah, and that is one. And
We have only a
as
few seconds remaining on the show, so I
okay.
think you have.
Okay, for Slangaluru, I would say I learned a really funny word from one of our followers. It's called Kittogiro Badnekain and Maga. So